My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach and one of the senior partners at the Wellness Universe. I'm also the lead author of a brand new #1 best-selling, international best-selling book called Gifts of Wisdom, Practices for Healing and Empowerment. In fact, today my guest is one of the co-authors on that program. So that's going to be cool. We're probably going to talk a little bit about that book, although that's not our primary objective today. This is Life Mastery TV, your source for inspiration, empowerment, and fulfillment. So today, our topic is pinpoints of light. So just imagine looking up at the clear night sky where each star is a tiny, distant point, seemingly insignificant against the vastness of the universe. Now imagine choosing one star as a destination and traveling toward it at unimaginable speed. As you get closer, the star grows brighter, larger, and more powerful in your view. Eventually, you get so close that the star becomes an immense, radiant present that cannot be contained in a single gaze. You actually have to turn your head in all directions in order to be able to see it all. Well, much like that distant star, you might think of yourself as small or insignificant within the enormity of the universe. Yet, as you dive deeper into your true nature, your true essence grows more expansive, more powerful, and ultimately more magnificent than you may ever have imagined. Could it be that your inner light is boundless, so vast and brilliant that no one perspective can capture its entirety? What a delicious and captivating idea. For this episode of Life Mastery TV, I've invited my good friend Janine Savient, the Heart Lady, to help me dig into this really powerful and amazing and tantalizing topic. As Janine says, each one of us, as a pinpoint of light, flows within the vibrational stream of creation. Each of us holds the fullness of creation deep within the divine spark of infinity within our heart. And each of us was birthed from within the purity of this light of love. So take that in for a moment in silence as we welcome Janine Savient to the program. Welcome, Janine.
Good morning, good afternoon, David. Morning here in this side of the world and afternoon for you. I'm so excited to be here and have a favourite conversation of mine, and I'm sure for you as well, together today.
Yeah, well, I'm delighted to have you here. I mean, I think we first met each other, it's got to be 6 or 7 years ago by now, when we did a summit together. And since then, we've kind of crossed paths lightly over the last few years. And then I had the good fortune of having you join me as a co-author in my book, Gifts of Wisdom. That's been a great journey, and getting to know you more and more during that process has just been an absolute delight. So I'm really thrilled that you're here with me today to talk about what I think is a very, very important topic.
Absolutely, David. It's what's more important than talking about the pure, absolute truth of ourself. And yes, it's been really lovely over the last probably about 10 months now. That journey of the book has been has brought us together, and it's been really lovely to get to know you after all these years again, and in a more intimate way, and the other authors as well. It's
right.
It's been a fabulous time.
Yeah, it has. It's been an amazing journey, full of all kinds of surprises that we perhaps hadn't envisioned when we first set out on the journey. And I think one of the things that I've noticed is that as we have grown to know each other better as co-authors, and as we have developed our understanding of what it is each of us offers in the world, I think there is a common element amongst all of our chapters, all of our contributions, about this notion of who we really are. And I remember I had been bugging you to come on this program for quite a while. I finally managed to find a time when it worked. And you chose the topic title, Pinpoints of Light. And I thought, what a beautiful topic that is. What was it about that idea that resonated for you? And just help me understand more about what that means for you, and how it can be translated into something important for the rest of us.
Absolutely. So I'm a visionary, and in a vision, possibly about a year ago, I went up above the earth and I was looking down at the planet, and I started seeing these flickers, tiny little flickers of light here, just randomly around the planet. And I wonder what I was seeing for a start. And then there just became more, and there became more, and then there became hundreds, then became thousands, hundreds of thousands. And I realized these were the hearts of humans opening, awakening, coming online. And as the massive light grew around the planet, it fed the grid. It fed a light grid, a brand new light grid that I call the New World light grid, coming online all around the planet. So it showed me, it was showing me who we are, that this body is the housing, if you like, for the pure essence of the light of us. And that as we come online, we all connect into the one light grid around the planet. We are one. We're simply one beautiful, beautiful streaming light. But this is the journey right now, is coming back into the truth of us and understanding that we are one. What affects one affects the other. You know that saying, that we feel the butterfly's wings right across the planet or right throughout the vibrational field. Well, it's true. Every word that we speak affects, it influences every other beautiful light within the oneness of that. So it all started with these pinpoints of light that I saw around the planet, and then grew into one massive light that is encasing the entire planet now. So, you know, it's outside of us around the planet. It's completely inside of us because it's who we are.
Right. Well, that's interesting that you refer to it as, rising above the planet and looking down towards the planet. I mean, I think that's interesting. My interpretation was, as I had described in my write-up, the looking out at the stars and seeing those pinpoints of light. Now, I honestly don't think there's any difference between those pinpoints of light and the ones that are here. It's all this amazing light of love and brilliance that is available to all of us. And I chose to view this as how we sometimes see ourselves as small or insignificant, and yet when we get up close, as we get closer and closer, that smallness disappears. That smallness simply, it vaporizes, it goes away. And we begin to realize, that it's just an illusion, this idea of smallness. It's an illusion created by another illusion called distance. There really is no distance between us. It's infinitesimal. We're as you said, we're all one. It's funny about that. We're all one. I used to think that was just a great, bumper sticker. I used to call it that. This was a bumper sticker logic. We're all one. And it's nice. It's touchy feely. It's all fuzzy and warm. It's a nice statement. But then, I had my own visceral experience of oneness as part of my journey of waking up on my own, having that moment in my men's retreat, where all of the pent up anger and rage and sorrow and everything else that was locked inside me, that started coming out. And then the opening took place for this beautiful gold blue light, if you like, that to come in and fill my heart. And just in that moment, as I was doing that, and I see all these other people around me, and I'm looking and I can see their hearts and the connection too. And I had this, like I said, I had this visceral experience, and I said, so this is what they mean by we are all one. And I understood it then as an absolute truth. It's not just a bumper sticker. And I can't say that other people will have a same kind of a circumstance or an event or an experience that I had. But I think what you do is, if you look within, if you draw your attention inward and stop thinking, up here in your head, and start listening to the heart and the soul, then you'll become connected to that light, and you'll begin to maybe experience that sense of oneness for yourself.
Absolutely. You know, David, I didn't actually leave my body and my vision to go up above the planet to look down. I actually went inward. I went
Right.
inside
Exactly.
my body. Yes. So
Sure.
it's exactly what you're saying, you know, it's everything is within us, everything.
Right.
And because we're learning now, we're remembering that we are one. To have an experience like you had so reinforces, reaffirms the truth of that. And so I often say to people, I'll send you an energetic hug right now. And like sometimes people will say to me, oh yeah, I'd rather have a real one. Well, you know, if we are at the stage in ourselves where we can trust and we open our heart to that, that hug is felt. It is actually, it
Right.
is tangibly felt, you know, a warmth, an inclusive embrace, like a deep warmth comes in. It's the same with healing. If I was to say to you, I'll send you some healing, David, and you just were open to that, you even maybe laid down for a moment to allow it, you would feel that come into your field, because as you say, there is no distance. There is absolutely no space whatsoever. It
That's
is
right.
every part of this reality is the field. And so I could reach out right now and lay my hand on your chest and you'd feel the warmth through because of the openness of who you are. And you've had that experience. So it's been reaffirmed for you that we are indeed all one. You know, so this is part of the awakening, is us coming into that realization that you know, that there is no separation whatsoever, that separation has been something that's been schooled into us in every possible way deliberately to keep
Hmm.
us feeling small, to keep us confined and contained in a very narrow bandwidth of reality, when oh my gosh, there's so much more. There is so much more than that
Right.
one little bandwidth.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. So when you talked about having a vision of rising above the earth, I knew exactly what you meant. I wasn't,
Yes.
yeah, I wasn't confused at all. And I know that maybe other people who listen to us might not fully understand what we're talking about. But a vision is something that occurs internally. It's something that, you know, we kind of attribute it to our mind because we associate, you know, mentalization with images and words and all that other kind of stuff. Um, but in reality, what is the mind? You know, what is the mind? If you think about that for a moment, well, think about here. This is something that I learned from who was it? I think it was David R. Hawkins. Uh, he's an amazing guy. He talks about the like your finger, for example. Your finger has no sense of its own fingerness. It is if you, the only part of you that has a sense of your finger is the mind. All
That's
right,
right.
now think about the mind for a moment. How do you even know about the mind? The mind doesn't know about itself. It is consciousness. That's it's kind of, consciousness infuses everything. Consciousness infuses the mind. It basically creates the mind. And then we associate mind with the head, with the brain, with all that kind of stuff, even though the mind isn't really even part of the body. You know, it's a
No,
field, like you say, the field. And so it's really hard to explain in words because, you know, we use words to try and describe things, and the words have to come from that same place, that consciousness, that mentalization. So that's why
that's
it's
right.
difficult to describe it. So yeah, I've been learning and studying this, and I've just been totally fascinated over the years. And yeah, I'd like to hear more from you about your experiences of consciousness and how you understand the relationship between the body, the
Yeah.
mind, and consciousness in general.
So for me, David, what you've just described is the quantum mind. So that is the field itself that is around us. But there's also the thinking mind, and the thinking mind is vastly different. I call the
Right.
thinking mind the program, and that is the part that keeps us small and contained within beliefs and ideas, expectations, perceptions that have all been fed to us from our external world. Whereas the quantum mind is it all. It contains, well, it doesn't contain, it's everything. Okay. So for me personally, I never feel into or use the term the quantum mind. For me, it's the purity of love, and it's my heart center. And my heart center is that quantum field. So my knowing is that we are the purity of love. That purity of love is not an emotion. It is not a lustful feeling. It is not the brokenheartedness of losing something, of being alone, of any of that type that we've been taught about that love is. For me, love is the foundational creation of this entire reality, or the creative foundation of this entire reality. And from that foundation, everything grows. So everything that we know as reality grows from the foundation of love. And even the experiences we have where love feels completely absent, it's all within that field, that quantum field of the purity of love, because sometimes we have to be reminded of love by the absence of it. So in the contrast, we start to realize what's missing, so so that's I come from the depth and expansiveness, the spaciousness that I feel within my body, which I know is the portal through into the field of everything, into the universal field of all that is. And so every one of us, in my view, is a walking portal here, pinpoint of light that is a portal through into the all that is.
Oh, it's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm just going to say thank you to the folks who are here live on this presentation. If you have any questions or comments, or if you're resonating with anything we're saying, please feel free to put your comments in the chat. If you ask a question, we'll do our best to try and respond to that. I loved what you were saying about the thinking mind versus the quantum mind. These are terms that you use that have come about in your journey. And I know that as you're speaking those things, I'm in my own mind saying, oh yeah, so she's talking about the ego mind, or she's talking about the soul, or she's talking about consciousness in general. These are my terminologies. And I have another word. You talked about all that is. Well, I have a word for that called omnitude, meaning all that is. I wanted, all that is was a bit of a tongue twister for me. So I just came up with omnitude. It's got the same number of syllables, but it's a little easier for me to say. So for me, omnitude is all it is. I mean, there's nothing that is not part of all that is, and there's nothing that omnitude is not. And so that's part of the dilemma, I think, that began, well, whenever this thing started, just a moment ago, perhaps. The idea that omnitude knew itself as all it is, but could not experience itself as such because there was, as you mentioned, there was nothing to relate to, nothing else to relate to. How can you relate to something that isn't there? You know what I mean? And yet even the concept of nothing has to be part of all that is too. I mean, it's mind-boggling. It completely screws up your thinking when you dive into it and just ponder it. And yet at the same time, it's so magnificent and beautiful and wonderful. And, as you say, I think it is truly a massive, infinite field of love. I think that's what it is.
Absolutely. David, you said it, you hit the nail right on the head. It's way beyond the thinking mind. So we'll never, ever understand it. We will never be able to be right there realizing it on the deep level through our thinking mind. It's incapable. So I say to people, bring it into your body, heart awareness, and just allow it to be in there. Don't start analyzing, don't sift through it, don't try and seek in it to find answers. just breathe it in and hold it within the awareness, and then let it go and move on with your life, because it comes in its own way. Piece by piece, the answers will just rise up in us, and in the most beautiful, quiet moments, the soft moments of where the mind is relaxed, where we're just breathing into our body. Then all of a sudden we have what we call an aha moment. It's just an answer to something that was brought into the field at some previous stage. This is how we find out more about ourselves and who we truly are.
Right. Well, I think that's beautiful what you just described. I think part of my challenge, and I'm sure you have this challenge too, and maybe anybody else who's on a path of trying to help other people do their own awakening, trying to explain to them what it is that we have come to know through a process that defies the logic of our ego mind, that comes to us internally. And all I tell people is, I say, well, here's how I did it, or here's how I continue to do it. When I go into meditation, I consciously invite and welcome the infinite love of all creation to infuse me, fill me, surround me, and guide me in everything that I do. My ego mind is still active. I'm not going to claim that I have completely liberated myself of an ego mind. So I still sometimes, trip up, and I might get misguided by my ego mind. But when I take that moment and I do that deep meditation and I invite in that beautiful, loving energy, everything becomes crystal clear. Everything becomes like, okay, everything's perfect. What am I worried about?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I'm with someone and they know themselves through their thinking mind, and they've had great difficulty trying to find the rest of themselves, the truth of themselves, I will soften down my voice, and I just start talking to them from the level of myself that is pure softness. And I allow them to have an experience right in that moment of coming into that space with me, just by simply being fully present in the moment with them, talking softly, and allowing them to start feeling the field between us in our conversation that's flowing through us in all moments. And most people will feel it to some degree. Some have a profound experience in that moment of feeling an expansion in themselves, of feeling like what I call the spaciousness. It seems to grow in themselves so they can feel it in their body. This is nothing whatsoever to do with the thinking mind. This is all about the body. Because as I got in communication one day, we, as the beings that we are, we designed our bodies. We designed these vehicles to hold magnificence. And it took me a moment to realize that the magnificence is us. We designed these bodies to hold the magnificence, So, I mean, you and me have had this conversation before. I remember that it's like, to even truly believe that we are magnificence is a real stretch for most human beings, because of the thinking mind, because of the ego mind that's kept us very small and contained, and believing that we are a pinpoint of light within the universe, when actually we are the universe itself.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
If we look outward, David, we look out into the universe, we see all these planets and stars and twinkling bits out there in the night sky. What's to say we are not a molecule within the largest being that ever was, and then bring it in from the macro to the micro and bring it right into the body? And within us is a universe of stars and planets, and then go right into one of those stars and planets, and here's a whole life within us. So we are a universe in ourselves. That's why I say that we're a portal through, because we are like the doorway through to the, what do you call it? The
Omnitude.
Omnitude. Yes, beautiful. So this is us awakening, and there's so much to awaken. I was sitting with a beautiful, beautiful being one day, and he said to me, this was many years ago. He said, you know yourself very, very well, Janine. He said, and yet, he said, put your thumb on the corner of that coffee table in front of us. It was a very big coffee table. So I put my thumb down on the corner of it. And he said, see your thumbnail on the corner? He said, and yet that's all you know. The rest of the table still waits for you to be discovered. And I mean, some people could look at that and think, oh my God, I'm so small. I know nothing. Oh, it's daunting, It's heavy. But for me, it's like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to find out the rest,
Exactly.
So,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God, all this, so much more to explore.
Yes, we are so much more like we can't once again, we can't fathom how much more there is to us with our thinking mind. And of course, that's the place we immediately go to, is the thinking mind, to try and find our pathway through, to find our way in. We won't go into ourself with our thinking mind. It is designed to keep us in a shallow state of being. It is designed to keep us separate from even knowing the deepest, most delicious, most exquisite parts of ourselves, our magnificence. So this journey of awakening is about realizing the mind, the thinking mind, as a tool, as a powerful creative tool, and coming into the body heart awareness where the truth of us is, and learning to use that tool as the tool it is, and not allowing it to run our life. So we've lived on autopilot for a very, very long time, letting the mind do whatever the mind wants to do. Now it's about taking that control back.
Right. There's another thing that I find interesting is when I go within, if we think about this, like using the ego mind, the thinking mind, as you say, if we think about it, we're actually in a sense getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But the irony is, the more I go within, the bigger I feel, the bigger I get, the more expansive I get. It's like it becomes more universal. And this is one of the reasons that I think a lot of meditation teachers recommend closing your eyes and following the breath, because the breath brings you into present moment in the body. I mean, you don't have to follow the breath. You can follow anything, but follow something that's in the body, because what that does is that brings you inward and keeps you in the present moment. And in the present moment, you can begin to experience this idea of expanding consciousness, or expansion in general. Now, how can something that's going within into a so-called smaller space expand? How is that possible? Well, that's the beauty of this paradox. And in doing that, what you do is you effectively, you uncover or reveal or find for yourself your own inner radiance. And when you find that, you give yourself permission, I think, or you can anyway, give yourself permission to let that radiance come forth when you're done with your meditation. Let it be part of your beingness as you're just walking about doing whatever it is you do.
Absolutely. Meditation, the word meditation for a lot of people can be very daunting, or it can be regimental, and there's step 1, 2, 3, and you must do it this way, and this has to happen. So I know personally a lot of people that are put off by the word meditation. So I say to people, just find a seat and sit in it. That's all you need to do. Just find a seat, sit in it, and take a breath and let go of life for a moment. Just be. You don't have to shut your eyes. You don't have to take any steps. You don't have to do anything. In fact, even allow your thinking mind to carry on, because the moment we're quiet, if we haven't got control of our mind, of course, the mind immediately starts making lists, plans,
Exactly.
So I say to people, so let your mind do that. Just allow it to do that, but just find that moment to sit and be still. So the whole thing is be still. So just get comfortable in the chair and stop. And even if it's only just for a moment, a few moments, whatever, give yourself that time out. So eventually you'll start to realize that the mind is starting to soften down. It mightn't happen for weeks. It depends how your mind is. Everybody's mind is different. It could be days, it could be weeks, but you'll start to notice that the mind will soften down with the commitment every day, just for a few minutes, to find that seat and sit in it and be still. Keep the eyes open if you want, or shut the eyes. But often I find people, when they shut their eyes, they take off from their body. They've got this idea of going out into the realms and dimensions, and they take off from their body. And that is one of the misconceptions that we've been taught in the spiritual circles, along with so much else that's been deliberately given to us to keep us separate. So it's like, keep your eyes open, keep in your body here, feeling your body, and stay grounded in this, as you said before, in this now moment right here, feeling your body, just feeling your body. Because eventually, as the mind softens down, the spaciousness within that body starts to grow. And it's like, if we're not hard on ourselves, if we don't start going, oh my God, the mind just keeps coming in all the time, it's just always there, I can't do this. Just let it be there. Let it do whatever it wants to do, Stay soft with the entire process. And then by itself, the mind starts to quieten over time. The spaciousness starts to be felt a bit more, feels like it's growing. The stillness starts to feel like it's moving right through us. And it's then that we come into communication with our soul self, because it's in that spaciousness that we find the purity of ourself, the true love, the resonance of love, the frequency of love that we are. And that's where we get our deep knowing from, our answers, our awareness in the moment. So I've found with people that as soon as that starts happening a little more, they want to be in that stillness more and more and more. Yeah. So, there's no commitment to have to do it then, because they want to do it,
Right.
So,
well, I think so. First of all, I want to agree with you 100%. I think people are maybe put off by the word meditation. And, but I also want to say that for me, it took me, I originally, when I started doing this, I had exactly that same experience. I can't do this. My mind just won't shut up, and this and that and the other. Besides, I don't like sitting with my legs crossed and my hands in this silly position. It's just not what I want to do. So I started doing a little bit of research on this whole notion of meditation. And the one, for all the different teachers that I read about, there was a common thread. And really the point is presence. That's the main point. You refer to it as stillness, and I like that word stillness, but it doesn't have to be body stillness. The point of meditation is mental stillness. And so what I discovered for myself is, I remember one day I was sweeping my kitchen, and I noticed that as I was sweeping, I was focusing just on the little bristles of the broom going across the floor. And I said, isn't that fascinating? And before I knew it, the sweeping was done, and I couldn't remember anything that had happened in that process. And I thought, oh, so I can be in a meditative state or a still-minded state no matter what I'm doing, as long as I have the proper intention for it. And I started thinking more about that in other venues, and I started noticing, well, think about people who do, I don't know, extreme bike riding or skiing or anything that requires really, really concentrated focus. They're not thinking about paying the bills from last week or what's going to happen next week or the divorce that's happening around the corner. I mean, maybe that might slow them down and stuff. They're focusing on that thing, because if they lose focus, they could damage their body, So
absolutely.
Concentration and presence in the now moment is ultimately what meditation is all about. How you get there is completely up to you. And I really like your suggestion. Well, just sit and just let everything fall away. And I also like that you said, Some people, they say when they close their eyes, they just seem to fly out of their body. I love that. I think that's awesome. It just proves how unlimited you really are.
Yes, but David, a lot of people believe they actually have exited their body, and the whole idea is to stay grounded in the body. So what my team said to me in communication years ago was, dear one, all your life you have taken off from your body. You have had the perception that you leave the body behind and you take off out into the realms and dimensions. And we are saying to you, bring all that into your body, bring it all to you, and know that it is inside yourself. That was a huge turnaround for me to have that realization, you know. So that's why I said before about taking off, because some people can have the hold the belief, which is very powerful, that they're exiting their body completely and taking off from here. And you can end up neglecting your body and not having a healthy respect for your body if you just want to exit it like that. And I say that from a personal point of view, because that was me for many, many years growing up. It just felt a cumbersome lump of meat to cart around here. It kept me feeling heavy when there was always so much out there to explore and play in, and so realizing that all that out there is actually in here.
So for you, it was a major shift in perspective then.
Yes. Perspective being part of the thinking mind, you see. It's part of the program that keeps us separate. And now it's about that separateness dissolving, so that we actually experience, it's not just a concept that we're one, but we start to have the experiential layer of it as one. And that's what you were just describing before with the experience you had that proved that you are one with everything. You know, that will happen more and more for everybody. And because it's through the experience that we feel a deeper level of truth, our truth within ourselves, of course. Otherwise, it's just words and sharing, and it remains a concept. And the thinking mind will keep it a concept, you know. So we need to come into our beautiful bodies, our body-heart awareness, I call it, to have the experience. And so many people don't know. They just have no idea how to do that. I have people say to me often, well, that's all right for you to say, Janine, but how do I get from my thinking mind down into my feeling heart? You know, the old saying, the longest road there is that one that's just, you know, it's just here, right here.
You know, the funny thing is, I found it's actually very easy. Yeah. It's just that we put such a lot of pressure on ourselves to get it right the first time. It's something that you have to learn on your own. People can tell you how to do it, but you still have to learn it on your own, right? Yes. And you know, I remember, well, so many times I would sit down and meditate according to someone else's prescription and have very, very bad results. Like I said, it wasn't until I finally said, to hell with all your prescriptions, I'm just going to do it my own way. And when I gave myself permission to do that, and I just knew that my objective was to not force the mind to go quiet, but rather allow it to go quiet just by bringing myself present into the current moment. The moment I started doing that, everything shifted and my meditations became much, much easier. I now actually do like sitting down with my hands in a certain position, whereas before I didn't enjoy it at all, because now I can get to that place much more quickly. The other thing is, I notice I have this experience that as I begin to meditate, and I have this sensation in my body of descending, like I'm going deeper. But as I descend, as I said, I had this paradoxical thing happening where everything seems to be bigger and more expansive. It's not like I'm leaving my body, but I do see universes inside, or wherever it is that I'm going when I do this stuff. And sometimes I see the most amazing things in my imagination, right? And I'm so grateful for that. And all of it, I just look around and I say, oh, wow, oh, wow. What a way to be. Who wouldn't want to be, oh, wow, all the time?
I love that word. Oh, I love that word. Wow. It just describes so much, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You were saying just then that the wow just moved me. Imagination. Yes, you were talking about imagination. So now here is another misconception that's been taught to us all our life. For me, for instance, my father would often say to me, get out of your imagination, girl. It's not reality. Well, imagination's more real than any part of this particular reality that we are actually in at the moment. We are what I call Imagineers. We are dreamers. We dream reality. We imagine reality into being. So I have always had an incredibly vivid imagination. It's the doorway for me. It takes me through, like you were just talking, the amazing things that you've seen when you go inward. Well, yes, all that is right there. And everything, every part of our fantasy stories, our fairy tales, our all those things they've all been imagined from a part of a reality that's within us on some level. I've had experiences with the most incredible creatures that have come from fairy tales. I've actually had experience with them, and they are in my imagination, in beautiful realms of my imagination, so real that I'm right there touching them with them, and I know so many other people that are also having these experiences. And now that the veils are fading, and us as multi-dimensional, multi-layered, multifaceted beings are plugging back in, coming back online again, we are starting to realize ourselves through these multi-layers and all these beautiful realms and dimensions that are within us, that our multi-layeredness goes all the way through. We're able to start having these experiences. More and more people are having these, what they would call magical miracle moments of deep wonder, of wow, because there's no human word to describe what they're feeling, seeing, being in that moment. So this is just yet another incredible part of the gift of shedding the idea of separation, shedding ideas, beliefs, expectations, perceptions, all that completely. All that is going. And you before were talking about presence. That is the most powerful part of us, is to become present here in this now moment. And in this course reality, where it's been set up as linear time. So we've always been taught and believe that there is a past and there is a future, and that linear time has been designed to keep us out of the present moment experience, because once again we find the truth and power of ourselves in this present moment, in this breath, right here, right now. This is really all that exists. Everything else is contained in a memory, or is in a hope or a dream or a wish or a worry, So come back into this present moment, this breath right here, feel the stillness within us, that presence. That is us on our highest level, is the high level, high frequency, positive being that we truly are. That is us.
Right. That's beautiful. Beautiful. You talked earlier about conferring with your team. And I do believe you're talking about a team of guides and angels or whatever else, whatever kinds of energy forms they are, who provide you with information. I have a kind of a team too, also.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. However, I think my ego mind kind of dismissed it for a long time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until okay. So for me, the way it happens is I have these conversations in my head, Now, previously, before I really started doing my personal growth work and started having, interesting awarenesses and stuff, these conversations were with real people that I wished I had said such and such to, because I could have really shown them what for. That was the kind of conversations I used to have in my mind. But then when I had that huge awakening in 2003 with that men's retreat, the conversations took a whole new shift, and I started hearing things that were much more spiritual in nature. They still seemed to be coming from my head, and so I still kind of dismissed it for a long time. But then in around 2022, I think it was that time, during my meditation sessions, I started hearing these really, really deep, profound ideas coming to me. And I said, okay, I've got to capture this. This is really good stuff. And I started recording. I would try to say what I was understanding and just say it as a recording while I was doing my sessions. All right. So this being has a name. The name that I have given it is Omnitude, because it is all it is.
Yeah.
And I haven't talked about this very much, but I'll tell you, I've captured quite a few of these conversations, and I'm now trying to transcribe them in a way that they make sense in the written form. And so the reason I'm even bringing this up is because you were talking about imagination. And one of the questions I asked Omnitude is, how do I know you're real? How do I know I'm not just making this up? And the answer came back to me in much the same way that you described it. Omnitude says, I am all that is. All that is must, by definition, include anything that you can imagine. Yes. Powerful, powerful point right there.
Yes, so, absolutely.
And I thought, okay, so what you're telling me is imagination is just as important, just as real as so-called reality. Basically, that's the truth. But the other side of it is, and he said, and so what? Even if it is just your imagination, so what? What difference would it make? You can tell from what I'm telling you whether it's true or not. You could feel it in your body. And that's how we need to discern truth, is through our body, not through our minds.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's amazing to me how you and I have arrived at very similar understandings from two completely different pathways.
Totally.
Maybe they weren't so different, but they just appear different on the outside right now. And I'm suggesting that anybody can accomplish this, can reach this level of understanding simply by desiring it and welcoming it in.
Totally. It was said to me one time by the team that there is only one destination and there's 8 billion pathways to it. So we all walk our own pathway in our own knowing through our own gifts of awareness and truth, but we all arrive at the same point of awareness within ourselves. And the other part that I just wanted to speak into was, there's just, this conversation contains so much. I have so many pieces that I want to grab onto to discuss. It was, yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
It was.
I just said, there it is.
Yeah. It's about the team. So the team, if we're all one, if everything is one, then the team has to be us. It has to be one. So there is no separation between myself and my team. And it took me quite a few years to fully believe and trust in that, because of still feeling a smallness in me. I would look to the team to know a lot more than me, and therefore there was a separation between, I put them higher. So when the team came to me one day and said to me, dear one, we want you to own everything that comes out of your mouth now. Every word is yours. Every message that you receive and you share is yours to own. It is not separate from you and coming from higher beings than you. So, it was a very long journey over a few years, and I still say the team now because people relate to that so much easier. So But really, the team is aspects of myself. Beautiful, beautiful aspects of myself, you know, and they can be from all sorts of civilizations and realms and dimensions, and but they're all me. Every single one of them is me. And sometimes that team can feel like there's literally thousands in it. I get the sense of a massive crowd, and other times, of course, it's narrowed right down to about a dozen. And I don't know why that is. Often people will say to me, gosh, the amount of the team that walks with you is incredible. And then other times it's just down to a little group, you know, and it's all perception, I guess. It's really neither here nor there. But even the so-called, and I say so-called with respect, masters and angelics and galactics and devics and all those beautiful beings that we know walk with us, they're all aspects of ourself, every one of them, which
correct.
I know you would know, yes.
Yep. You know, you remind me of, do you remember Robert Heinlein's book, Stranger in a Strange Land? Did you ever read that?
No, I didn't. I've heard of it, though.
Oh, it's a great book. It was written, I think, in the 50s or something, 1950s or something. So it has a little bit of a kind of a sexist / misogynist flavor to it, because that's the way they wrote back in those days. But the thing I really liked about that book was his main character, Valentine Smith, a human born and raised on Mars who comes back to Earth. And while he is on Earth, apparently he's got superpowers, sort of thing. But he's a very loving, Christ-like figure who constantly says to people, his greeting to people is, "Thou art God."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, what a statement. And it's a beautiful statement if you think about it. I'm sure that he took a lot of heat for that, you know, blasphemy, all this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But what a beautiful statement that is. Thou art God.
Totally. Yes, because I believe, well, my knowing, it's more than a belief, it's a deep, deep knowing that every one of us is God living life through our own choices.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's like we can call it soul, God, source, creator, whatever the term that we use for the all that is, of course.
Supreme consciousness, omnitude.
Yes, omnitude. You know, we are a pinpoint of light that contains the whole, and we are here experiencing everything that we already know we are tangibly experiencing. So therefore, when you have, for instance, 8 billion souls on one planet experiencing all in their own unique ways, imagine the growth of the universal presence through that, you know, and every single moment right now in this reality, 8 billion souls are experiencing life uniquely in their own way. It's like the universal presence is just growing, imploding, growing on itself the entire time, experiencing tangibly everything it already knows energetically, vibrationally. So that's, you know,
I mean, I think of it as, I don't even think about just humans. I think about all energy forms throughout the universe, not just on Earth. I mean, there's an infinite variety. And just because we don't necessarily understand them, because they just don't appear the same way that we do or anything, doesn't mean that they're any more or less important than we are. There's that sense of, it's all vital to the, you know, you talk about being an expression of God, being a tiny pinpoint of light whose purpose is to bring forth and fully experience an aspect of God, omnitude, spirit, whatever you want to call it. Well, if that's true for me, it's true for you, then it's also true for this table that I'm sitting on. This table has a purpose to express a certain aspect of omnitude. So all of it is equally important. All of it is vital, because without any one part of it, if that one part disappeared, then that would be an aspect of total consciousness that doesn't get to be experienced.
Absolutely.
Which means there's something missing in the whole piece, you see? So everything is vital.
Absolutely. Yeah. When something disappears, the entire field alters, morphs, it shifts slightly. There is change. There
Of
is
course.
change. And when
Yep.
something, so when it disappears or when it appears, there's always that shift. And it's the same with us, with every thought that we have in our thinking mind, with every feeling that rises within our body, with every word that is spoken, we're making the whole field morph and shift, change, alter. This is the power of us,
Right.
as beings that we are.
You know, as you described that, I had this vision of have you ever seen a movie of going deeper and deeper and deeper into a fractal expression? These are just amazing videos that take, many hours to render in order to get like a 1 hour video. But the beauty of it, that's precisely what you're talking about. You go look at a little part of a fractal and you say, okay, I want to get a closer look. And so you dive in. And so everything kind of zooms up this way. And you see something else that looks similar, but not exactly the same as what you were looking at before, and it just goes and goes and goes. That is the nature of our reality. If we could just think about it, it's expansive. It's infinite in size. And, we humans all tend to have a similar look and feel. But compare a human to a dog or a cat, and you see differences. Nonetheless, if we just look from a scientific perspective, our DNA is about 95% the same.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That blows the mind.
Everything is relevant. Every single thing is relevant.
That's right.
And as you said, even the table, the chair we're sitting on, everything is relevant, holds relevance. And here's another part that can blow the thinking mind too. Well, it can't even conceive of it. It is only there when we feel it, see it, smell it, touch it. The moment that so anything behind me now is only a belief of what's behind me. And it's only actually there, really, when I turn around and look behind me. Otherwise, actually, there's a blankness there. There's just simply a blankness until I turn and it becomes a reality in that second,
Right.
So this is the reality that we are actually in right now. It is an entire void of nothingness. And we create it.
You're actually talking about what I think Schrodinger and Heisenberg tried to explain in a scientific manner.
Okay, whoever they are. Interesting name.
Well, they're quantum physicists, both of them.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. And like Schrodinger is famous for his Schrodinger's cat experiment, this thought experiment. There's a cat inside a box. Is it alive or is it dead? And the whole idea is, well, until I open the box, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
So it has equal probability of being alive or dead. Once I open the box, that probability function collapses into a single event. So it's either alive or dead once you open it. This is the whole concept, well, not the whole concept, but one of the concepts of quantum physics that, people try to grapple with. But the other thing that's really interesting, now we're on the topic of quantum physics, we've been talking about pinpoints of light, and I think this is relevant because even the tiniest particles known to quantum physics seem to pop in and out of existence from this uniform, amazing infinite field that they call the zero-point energy field.
Yeah.
So it comes into existence for a while and it goes away for a while. Yeah. And this is true for every piece of matter in the universe. Even if it's, a huge galaxy, it might last longer than a few microseconds, but obviously galaxies do last a lot longer. But you see, my point is all of it comes from the same energy field. That's the point. And that energy field is a representation of what I am now calling supreme consciousness.
Yes,
You know?
yes. And it's
Anyway,
always moving. It's always moving. It's always morphing.
shifting,
It's
growing,
always shifting,
breathing.
yeah, changing. And us too, David. We're here for a blink of an eye. The physical form gone again, morphing,
Right.
shifting. Even within the blink of an eye that we call a physical life, we change many times. We are many versions of always morphing and shifting within that life cycle, you know. So nothing is actually static. Nothing is still.
I know.
Apart from us, when we take a seat for a moment and come into the stillness of ourself for a brief time. Right. That's the center point of stillness for us as the physical being.
Right. Well, Janine, look at this. It's already been an hour. This is just an amazing conversation. I'm just so thrilled that you were here to join me today. Do you have any final words you'd like to share with the audience before I close us out?
I would just like to say that there is so much more. There is so much more to us than this human body, than this physical body, than this thinking mind. And when we come into alignment with ourself, mind, body, heart, soul, and it all lines up, we come into a spaciousness within ourself where we have a realization that we are so much more. And when we take into consideration the layers of us, of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, is all frequency, all vibrational frequency, and we bring that into our awareness as well, then we become center point within our own creation, and we know ourselves as the creator being that we are. So rather than living by default, creating by default, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Applying the terms, gosh, that was lucky, gosh, that was coincidence. We know that we are bringing it into form, into play ourselves, and we're doing it consciously. So I would just say every one of us is the same. We're all exactly the same energy, and we're here playing. We're playing at being human and feeling what it's like to have emotion and to experience life in the tangible.
Right. I couldn't agree more. And since we're all playing, why don't we play with much more joy and exuberance and happiness and light? You know, that would be, that's what I think we all want for this, well, for the world and for the universe, right?
Totally. Just before we finish, there is a depth to us that's in there that we feel in moments that is the purity stream of love. That is our essence. That is our truth. That is our beingness. That's where we go when we're present into that beautiful golden stream of pure love.
That's absolutely gorgeous. Oh, and with that, I want to say thank you all for watching today's program. I want to remind you that you can catch the recordings of this and every other episode on my website at lifemasterytv.com. And finally, friends, I invite you to remember to practice what I call the Life Mastery Mantra. It goes like this. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. Until we meet again, I'm David McLeod, your Life Mastery Coach, wishing you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. I'll see you next time on Life Mastery TV. Bye-bye.